This is Wayside School Beneath the Cloud of Doom, Chapter 19, called Pushdowns. Stephen lay on the playground, surrounded by his classmates. He grunted as he pushed down on the blacktop with all of his might. Nothing happened. "You can do it," urged Mauricia. "Push harder, Stephen," encouraged Joe. Stephen pushed harder. He grunted louder. Still nothing. Lewis, the yard teacher, blew his whistle. "What's going on here?" he asked as he made his way to Stephen. "Stephen's trying to do a push-down," said Damien. "You mean a push-up?" corrected Kathy. "Why do you all have to be opposite all the time?" asked Damien. "Stephen isn't pushing up, he's pushing down." "So he can go up," said Myron. Kathy didn't mean to be opposite. She discovered she liked being nice and having friends. She just really thought they were called push-ups. "How many has he done so far?" asked Lewis. "None," said Jason, "but he's trying really hard." Lewis kneeled and then patted Stephen on the back. "Keep at it, Stephen," he encouraged. "Every day you'll get a little stronger. In a month, I bet you'll be able to do 5 pushdowns." "A month?" said Dee Dee. "Stephen doesn't have a month." "He has to bang the gong on Friday," exclaimed Ron. Lewis raised one eyebrow. His mustache twitched. "I guess he really is the best principal ever," he muttered. "What?" asked Mac. "Never mind," said Lewis. "Push hard, Stephen. The mallet is made of solid iron." Stephen grunted louder than ever. He didn't move. "I can't do it, Lewis," he gasped. "Talk to Mr. Kidswater. Tell him to pick somebody else." "Oh, me!" exclaimed Joy. "Mr. Kidswater is the smartest principal in school," said Lewis. "He must have had a very good reason for choosing you." "Would you like to donate a toenail or maybe a fingernail?" said Mrs. Jules. Mr. Kidswater examined his nails. "No, I'm still using mine. I need a student to bang the gong on Friday." The next thing he knew, all the little brats had their arms in the air and they were making strange noises like, "Ooh, ooh," and "me, me." "You're the best principal ever," someone shouted. Those were the magic words. He turned to see who had shouted them when suddenly he saw her, that awful girl who had given him that awful face. "You," he boomed, pointing at Dana. Dana had a mosquito bite on her ankle, however, and at that moment she bent down to scratch it. Stephen sat behind Dana. He lay on the blacktop staring up at the awful cloud. "I'm doomed," he moaned. "Look, Stephen, I don't know what happened on Friday," Lewis admitted. "I don't know if you're going to hit that gong or drop the mallet on your toe, but I do know this. You have to try, or else you will regret it every day the rest of your life. And whenever you hear that gong, your heart will fill with a terrible sadness." "You really don't hear gongs all that often," Myron pointed out. "I mean, except here." "Even if you make $1 million someday," Lewis continued, "you could buy your own gong and hit it every day, all alone in your great big mansion, but it won't be the same." "That is so sad," said Leslie. Paul sniffed back a tear. "So, what do you say, Stephen?" asked Lewis. "You want to give it one more try?" Stephen wished Lewis hadn't mentioned dropping the mallet on his toe. Now that's all he could think about. He sighed and then rolled back over. He pushed as hard as he could. "You can do it, Stephen," urged Allison. "Push," said Jason. "Up," encouraged Kathy. "I mean down. I mean up. Well, now she was really confused. Stephen rose an inch off the ground and then collapsed. Everyone cheered. "One more," urged Lewis, "and then we'll go to the monkey bars and do some pull-downs." Chapter 20. Inside the Closet. Jason did it. He finished reading all 999 pages. He was so tired, he didn't know how he made it up the stairs to Mrs. Jules' class. He fell asleep somewhere around the 4th floor and woke up on the 28th. "Did you finish your book yet?" Allison asked when he entered the room. She and Rodney giggled. "Yep," said Jason. The girls' mouths dropped open. His book report only had to be 1 page, but Jason had written 10 pages. It was impossible to write only 1 page about a 999-page book. He wondered if anybody had ever written a book with more pages. Probably not. There was probably a law against writing a book with 1,000 pages or more. He brought the 10 pages and his 3 pictures to Mrs. Jules' desk. "I guess if somebody writes a book with 999 pages, it has to be really good," he said, "or else nobody would ever read it." "I don't know," Miss Jules admitted. "I've never read a book that long." Jason sleepily handed over all the papers. "Where's your paper clip?" asked Mrs. Jules. "It got all bent in my backpack," he explained. Too tired to think about what he was saying. "Unbent, really. I guess the 999-page book was too heavy for it. He showed Mrs. Jules the paperclip, now unbent into a crooked line. Mrs. Jules put her hand in her mouth, horrified. "You bent your paperclip?" she gasped. "Unbent," said Jason. Mrs. Jules stood up. "You better come with me," she exclaimed. She grabbed Jason by his ear and yanked him towards the door. "Ow!" he whimpered. Whispers could be heard from the room. He read a 999-page book, but he bent his paperclip? He wrote a 10-page book report, but he bent his paperclip? No, he unbent it. "Everyone stop talking now," ordered Mrs. Jules. "Do not leave your seats for any reason." She pulled Jason out of the room and slammed the classroom door behind her. She dragged him straight into the closet that wasn't there. Jason read the signs. "Keep back. Do not open. Danger. Call the fire department if you smell something unusual." He sniffed. He didn't smell anything yet. Mrs. Jules turned the dial on the padlock and she quietly said the combination to herself. 24, 17, 6. She unlocked it. "But you said it wasn't there," Jason pointed out. "Of course it's there," said Mrs. Jules. "Hold this." She gave Jason one end of the heavy chains. He remained where he was as Mrs. Jules took the other end and walked 4 times around the closet, unwrapping it. Then she took Jason's end from him and tossed the chain aside. It clanged against the floor. A steel bar held in place by 2 clamps still blocked the closet door. The locks on the clamps had letters instead of numbers. Jason watched as Mrs. Jules set one lock to ACBD and the other lock to BDBC. The clamps snapped open. "I'm really sorry about the paperclip, Mrs. Jules," said Jason. "It's a little late for that now, don't you think?" said the teacher. She lifted the steel bar and tossed it aside. A loud clank echoed down and up the stairs. Mrs. Jules walked down several steps. Jason watched, amazed, as she slid open the secret compartment hidden in the 3rd step from the top. She removed 2 keys, one red and one green. Each closet door had a keyhole. One was green, the other was red. Mrs. Jules put the green key in the red hole and the red key in the green hole. "I have to turn them towards each other at precisely the same time," she said, "or else it will trigger the sirens in the smoke screen." Jason held his breath as he watched her turn the keys. The doors clicked open. Ever since the closet first appeared, he and his friends had been trying to guess what was inside. They imagined all kinds of horrible things, but what Jason saw now was worse than anything they've imagined. The closet was empty. "Don't lock me in there, Mrs. Jules," he pleaded. "I didn't do it on purpose. The book was too heavy." He tried to remember all that he had seen and heard. 3rd step from the top, red key in the green hole, 27, 6, 14, A, B, D, C. It was too much. It was slipping out of his brain faster than he could remember. "Call the fire department if you smell something unusual." "I don't want to become an unusual smell," he cried. "What are you blabbering about, Mrs. Jules? Why should I lock you in the closet?" She bent over. Jason looked again. The closet wasn't completely empty after all. There in the back corner was a small cardboard box. Mrs. Jules picked it up. A price tag stuck to the side read 89 cents. Mrs. Jules opened the top flap and removed a paperclip. "Now, don't tell anyone where you got this." "I won't," he promised. She put the box back in the closet and then shut and locked the doors. Turning the color-coded keys in opposite directions, she returned the keys to their secret hiding place. She grunted as she lifted the steel bar, and then again when she set it in place. She snapped the clamp shut and spun the dials on the locks. Jason picked one end up of the chain and walked 4 times around the closet. Mrs. Jules secured the padlock. "I'm very proud of you, Jason, for finishing the whole book," she said. "I was kind of sorry when it ended," said Jason. Teacher and student returned to the class.